Freedom, the carefree speedster with the biggest moveset to date. To the community, Freedom is either one of the best styles or complete trash that you should never touch. It's honestly hard to define it in a certain boxing category besides being fast on its feet, so we'll call it a glass cannon for the purposes of this video. Freedom is an incredibly versatile style due to the fact that it has 3 different modes, labeled as Whirlwind, Flicker, and Smash. These modes, as mentioned by the game, all have unique upsides and downsides to them as you switch between them in a game. The most major disadvantage to all of this, though, is that you have not only the worst block in the game, but also the worst health. Freedom is one of the only 2 styles that has lower health than normal, sitting at 80. The other style with this downside is Kronos, who has 90. Obviously, this makes you an incredibly fragile fighter, as you essentially take 20% more damage from every hit landed on you. Combine that with your block that crumbles after just a few hits, and being caught is very bad news for you. This gives Freedom one of the highest skill floors in the game, this meaning you'll have to be very understanding of how the game's mechanics work to use it properly. As such, though, it also has one of the highest skill ceilings, meaning you can be incredibly powerful with it once mastered. Since there are so many different ways to use this style, I'm going to mainly be focusing on each mode's advantages and disadvantages, rather than stating specific strategies. I'll also talk about some basic techniques that every Freedom player should know to get a good head start. For example, every time you change modes, your opening swing will come from your left no matter what, so stay sharp on that and remember that you can feint. First off is Whirlwind, the speedster mode. To switch to this mode, press your ability key before pressing your dash key. When you successfully swap to Whirlwind, a green effect flashes around your character to signal the switch to the other person. Your idle animation also changes depending on the mode you're in, but that's much harder to see than the bright flash. Whirlwind has a walk speed bonus, like hands low, and does the highest counter damage of the 3 modes. It also has extremely quick, fast, and fluid dashes that consume little stamina and are really hard to properly catch. However, Whirlwind's base damage and block damage are absolutely terrible, like brutally bad. I'm pretty sure its block damage is the worst in the game. Therefore, Whirlwind is best utilized for escaping tough situations and restoring the game to neutral. Its swings are decently fast, but not fast enough to really provoke counter-oriented gameplay. Along with the movement speed though, Whirlwind is also capable of the sway back, a unique gimmick only usable by Freedom and the Hawk style. While not pressing a movement key, hitting your dodge button on its own will cause your character to bend backward, therefore initiating a dodge without actually moving. This sway back, while functioning as a normal dodge, is also capable of triggering a perfect dodge. While the move does have a cooldown of several seconds, it's an amazing tool that doesn't rely on the input of a direction to get out of the way of attacks. Along with this, Freedom can actually switch its modes during a perfect dodge of any kind. The usual follow-up is to attack with one of Smash's M2s afterward, which we'll get into later. This can be a great way to change your line of attack without risking getting hurt. The next mode is Flicker. You swap to this one by pressing your light attack button after your ability input. This mode is essentially mimicking the Hitman style, one-sided but fast and rangy attacks that allow you to keep distance. This mode has the best base damage of the 3 modes and therefore should be what you want to use to push offense and secure a lead. Of course, you need to be careful with it, since smarter players will know the direction it comes from and move through it every time. Look for whiff punishes and distance keeping while using Flicker, just like you would with regular Hitman. Do note though that Flicker's block damage is not very high and will never be able to chew through one, so tread with caution. Along with that info, Flicker actually has a movement debuff. You will walk and dash significantly slower than normal and can be caught easily if you perform poorly. More on that in a minute though. Our final mode is Smash, activated by pushing your heavy attack button after your ability input. This mode is aggressive and powerful, but isn't super over the top. In a nutshell, Smash has regular movement speed, but powerful light attacks that chew through blocks pretty scarily fast. While the actual raw punches don't do much in terms of base damage, the fact that they can so quickly chop an opponent's block away can allow for some serious pressure with Flicker or Whirlwind. On top of that, your heavy attacks with Smash are reminiscent of the actual Smash style. A diagonal uppercut that does horrifying damage, the most of the 3 heavy attacks. Differently from Smash itself though, this attack can come from either hand instead of just the left. This can lead to some powerful mix-up and devastating damage if used properly. Of course, the move is still slow to come out, so be careful about just firing it willy-nilly. It can be very useful for mix-up though. Now that that's all out of the way, your question is probably, but dude, how in God's name am I supposed to use all of that? The thing is, a lot of it is straight up just practice. Getting used to being so fragile can be a hard thing to accept, and it can cause people to switch styles pretty quickly after a devastating loss or two. Despite that though, there are indeed a few things that you can master pretty quickly to give yourself a boost. The first one I want to mention is about just how you want to play Freedom in the first place, that being offensively or defensively. First and foremost, Freedom is capable of both staying up close and keeping a safe distance. Whirlwind and Flicker can give you room, while Smash can be a strong offense that gives way to some solid plays. That being said, it's important that you understand that you will get caught sometimes and you will suffer for it. The thing is though, you shouldn't force yourself to constantly switch between modes because that can guarantee you get hit more. The flash of color you emit can be an extremely obvious indicator to opponents that you're about to swing, and you'll just be damaged regardless of what mode you switch to. During a match, if you find an opponent is struggling with a particular mode, don't hesitate to keep using it to throw them off balance. Don't feel obligated to adopt the quote-unquote rapid switching approach you see from high-tier players unless you're sure it's what might garner the best results. You really just want to avoid being struck, so staying close to make an obvious mode change directly in front of them usually doesn't work out. You can often chain switch between your modes for a better chance of success. Flicker mode actually does higher chip damage than Smash or Whirlwind and can be a great way to finish knocking down an opponent or keeping pressure high. Smash mode also has a slightly thicker block than Whirlwind or Flicker, so you'll be better off getting attacked while in an especially offensive state. Freedom also does really well with adopting a hit-and-run approach. Move in, attack with Flicker and Smash, then retreat with Whirlwind to keep your distance and stay out of range. Flicker can be the best mode for moving back in again since it has the best range for whiff punishes, but it doesn't have more range than Hitman and can be predicted easily if you do that over and over. If there's any major tip here, it's this: always move back in a different way. Continuously trying to bait a perfect dodge with Whirlwind or hit a random M2 with Smash will bear extremely negative downsides. Regarding the stance switching directly, there's a small window of opportunity to not immediately change modes after you press your ability key. You have several seconds to actually hit the input. While seemingly not very helpful, this can at times be a good way to gauge what your opponent does and switch on reaction to a movement. You can already have Whirlwind or Smash primed to land opponents without actually causing the flash around you to appear until the last moment. This takes practice too, and might be more situational, but it's still something I found myself using with the recent changes on how Freedom's ability worked. With the recent addition of M1 feints, Freedom now allows you to basically do whatever you want when you want to. Of course, it's mandatory to be careful of just how often you want to fire off random Smash M2s or Flicker M1s. Every mistake you make is technically 20% more deadly to you. You can move everywhere and do everything, but that ironically puts you in a tight square to work with at the same time. Freedom is capable of a lot of power, as long as you know how to actually manage and handle it. You're quick and speedy while also capable of serious raw damage, but you're the definition of a glass cannon that can fall apart in seconds. When using Freedom, it's best to try and take your own approach after learning the basic mandatory tips, like I've explained here. There's practically endless multitudes for playing it, considering the size of its moveset, but that means anything is possible. Just, don't engage if you don't have any block. It's not worth it. With all these new tricks, you'll become the last sun in the stars. Free to do whatever you want, I bet. Along with all of this, actually, there's a Christmas event happening in UBG right now. You can spend tokens by playing matches and use them for a pair of seriously cool gloves called Gilgamesh. Grab them before you run out of time and stuff. I think you have the normal 2 weeks. With that, I'll catch you on the flip side, and hope you have a Merry Christmas. Peace!
Let me break it down for you, Mark.